For more analysis, we're joined from Cairo by the writer and journalist Mr. Abdurrahman Rabboua. Welcome to Q News. What are the potential risks and consequences of Israel openly committing to forceful strikes against Syrian forces in Sweden?
Yes, there is forceful actions that started yesterday from Israel, and today they hit some governmental buildings in Damascus under Khan, and these are warning messages from Israel, asking the Israeli government to withdraw its military from the places that they entered into that 2 days ago to solve the problems and ensure stability there and resolve the ongoing war there. And so the Bedouin there, this escalation is very dangerous. It also came coinciding with some things that happened from Islamic Tunisian tribes in Syria. And Israel is asking the government in Damascus to withdraw its forces and leave the region empty with no army.
How might the opposing stances of Israel's Druze spiritual leadership and Syria's Druze leaders impact the unity and safety of the Druze communities on both sides?
There is no doubt that any intervention in the benefit of any of the Syrian actors, it is beneficial to Syria, and the Israeli intervention, especially, and the intervention of Syrians. However, opposing to the new government is, they are getting the help of outer actors, especially from Israel. Is not a friend to Syria; it is a direct enemy to Syria, and I don't think that it is in the favor of any Syrian actor to request an Israeli intervention. So this is very clear that this um, is not national. It is happening to the enemies of the Syrian people, and the Syrian people will not stay still. And we see now more, they are now more revolved around the Syrian government, uh, especially it is supposed to be neutral in wars.
Mr. Rabboua, could Israel's military escalation in Sweden provoke broader regional involvement or retaliation from other actors such as Iran or Hezbollah?
I don't think there is a regional intervention that will happen, except for some political interventions. We saw a very strict uh, act from Egypt and Turkey. They refuse any intervention in Syria from Israel or from any other thing. And we also saw some statements from other countries like in Europe and some other Arab countries in Qatar, Emirates, Kuwait, and Jordan. All these political statements are welcome in Syria, and I don't think that the other actors like Iran or Hezbollah can intervene, because initially these actors are opponents to the Syrian government, and it is not in their favor to intervene.
Well, how does Israel's declared goal of dismantling the Syrian regime, as stated by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, align with its long-term security strategy along the northern border?
Israel has been aiming for a very long time for Syria to stay a very weak and fragile country. And so we saw what happened in last December when it uh, bombed the Syrian military, because they were afraid of the new government, and so it doesn't want Syria to be strong or to heal, and it wants for Syria to stay fragile, to stay weak, and to stay torn. This is in their favor to, to expand their occupation in the region, and it is working with all the supporting sides either in America or in Europe. And unfortunately, they have found, like, they said earlier today that they want an Israeli intervention, and so this is very unnational, and it is in the favor of Israel and not in Syria's favor.
You've mentioned before that you expect international parties and the international community to intervene. So what sort of diplomatic or mediation avenues do you think would exist to prevent further clashes and protect civilians in Sweden? And who could realistically lead such efforts?
Currently, I think that Egypt and Turkey can play a diplomatic and political role that is very important. They are now very close to Syria, and they have, and any country that is close to Syria, and they can mediate. So maybe people in Egypt and others in Turkey, they can play an important role to stop these forceful actions. And also the Syrian government is asked to act wisely and not drag the country to more wars and more disputes. They can take more wars and more occupation, especially from the external disputes, or even from others that are internal. So everyone in Syria now wants peace, and there are millions of Syrians that want to go back to Syria. And what's happening now, and these actions and these strikes, unwise actions from everyone involved, this is not in Syria's favor. This is not in the favor of these millions of Syrians that want to go back to Syria. They want to go back to their country, and the country needs them to, so that they can rebuild it and to bring back balance in the country.
Over the past few days, we've seen a lot of developments taking place on the political Israeli spectrum. Now, how might Israel's actions influence the domestic politics, especially regarding its relationship with its own Druze minority and broader public opinion?
Yes, what's happening in Syria is an extension of what's happening in Israel. There is a huge part of the Israel occupation military in Gaza. Netanyahu and the Israeli occupation military, they depend heavily on the Jews in Israel to keep Gaza in line, and they want to be up with this tribe that are in full cooperation with them. Israel wants its they have some relations with Druze in Syria, and wants to get the Jews on their side, and they want to widen and broaden Israel, even if it means harm to Syria. And they have contacted them to for Israel to be more wide and more broad, and for their satisfaction, So this has now some sheikhs and some Islamic tribes in Syria have asked some help from those people, and what we see now is a literal interpretation of the bilateral relations between the Jews in Syria, some Jews in Syria and some Jews in Israel, the ones that are involved in the Israeli project aiming to expand Israel.
Then how do you expect the situation domestically in Syria would evolve? How might the evolving dynamics between the Syrian government forces and the Druze fighters in Suwayda affect the broader security landscape in southern Syria and neighboring regions as well?
What's happening is still very dangerous, and everyone is worried. Everyone's worried towards because of what's happening, and we hope from the Syrian government first to aim for peace and to stop the escalation and allow political intervention, and allow, especially in Egypt, Turkey, and Jordan, uh, and be wise and act in a wise and a political way. And I think that the Arab aid to Syria, maybe they will help to lessen what's happening and have things go back to how they were, and start negotiations, international negotiations, as a single method to achieve peace in Syria and stop Israel from doing this and from achieving what they want in Syria and in other countries.
Mr. Abdulrahman Rabboa from Cairo, the writer and journalist, thank you very much for joining us here on Q News.